gonna come all the way up onto all fours here. You're gonna find a little all fours position, your wrists underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. And we're going to take that same rib cage tight feeling that we talked about in the beginning, keeping that little contraction going, and we're going to take it into a bear breathing position. So what we're doing is taking what we just did on the floor, we were breathing with the belly against the floor. We're going to take that up again, and this time what's going to provide the resistance is the fact that our abs are going to be really contracted to keep us in this position, this bear position. The bear position is just your toes tuck, your knees come barely off, you're trying to make like a table with your back. All right, so finding this position, you're going to feel these muscles nice and tight, and then we're going to hold here and breathe. So inhale. Now if you inhale into your belly, you're going to lose the stability of this position. So every time you inhale, you guys all right? Every time you inhale, you put the breath in the back and the ribs, right? So find the position, keep the belly tight, put your breath in your back and your ribs. Two more breaths. Last one. Drop the knees, flatten out the feet, let the hips come back to the heels and drop into a child's pose. So in child's pose, you are again constrained against your legs with your belly, so you can inhale, expand the ribs, breathe through the back. So just taking a couple of recovery breaths here before we move on. How are you guys doing? You doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Let's bring it back up to that all fours position again. And we're going to take it into bird dog here. So you can tuck your toes if it makes you feel more stable, or you can leave your feet flat. It doesn't matter to me. Try both and see what feels more stable to you. We're going to take it into bird dog. Bird dog, we're going to reach the right arm and left leg out, keeping them on the floor until the very last second, and then they drift up into a parallel line, right? Parallel with the floor, and then bring it back in. Exhale, thinking of that same rib tight feeling as we take left arm and right leg out and bring it back in. Alternating side to side. Try and keep everything nice and tight through the middle. One of the things we're working here is if we let gravity take over, we'd probably rotate. So we're working to anti-rotate, which is pretty important, because if you think about your day, all the ways that your spine gets pressure put on it from all kinds of different directions, being able to stabilize in rotation is really good. Let's do one more each side. And last one. And bring it in. Go ahead and tuck your toes, if they're not already, and sit back onto your heels. So you're going to just stretch out the bottoms of the feet a little bit. And if this is really intense, you just lean out of it a little, no big deal. If it feels good, lean back into it, put as much weight on your heels as you can. You can also shift. So right now I'm shifting into my right, so most of my weight is on my right heel, and then I can shift back and forth. So I'm giving the soles of my feet a little bit of a stretch. So you guys know how I feel about foot texture and finding foot texture everywhere. Today we took a walk and I wore my sandals and I got a lot of texture, and then we were getting pretty close to home, and so I took my shoes off and actually walked barefoot for a while, which was kind of intense. Like I haven't walked barefoot anywhere other than my house in a long time. So it was a risky thing to do outside, but I think worth it. So maybe go barefoot a little bit this week, right? You're gonna flip the feet over, tops of the feet down, and then sit down again. And same rule applies. If it's too intense, just lean out of it. If it's not intense enough, we're gonna do that same, take it into this single leg. So I'm gonna pull up on one knee so that I get a nice stretch across the front of that ankle.
What was I about to say?
And then the other side. That feels really good, so we're gonna do it again.
So Second verse, same as the first.
Exactly. And then the other side a second time. All right, cool. Coming back into that all fours position, we're gonna pull one leg up so that we can take it into a little bit of a low lunge. You're gonna keep the back knee down. You can tuck your toe or put your foot flat. My knee feels better when I tuck my toe, so that's what I'm gonna do. You just take your hands down to the floor. My goal here is to make a long straight line from my back knee all the way out the crown of my head. All right, so I don't wanna be here and I don't wanna be here. I wanna be in almost like a little miniature plank. You guys know how I love my planks. If you need a little bit more elevation with your hands, you can either grab some blocks, right, to bring yourself up to find a comfortable position, or you can go on your fists or your fingertips.
Sometimes his wrist.
If this lunge feels really good and you want to take it a little deeper, again, those blocks can come in handy because you can take it down to whatever height feels good to you. I'm just going to stay here. That feels about right. So I feel a lot of tightness through the inside of this leg, inner thigh, and then some of this. I'm not focusing, mostly I'm focusing on that front leg right now. So the leg is dropping out to the front. I'm sort of leaning into it. And then I'm actually going to grab my block so that I have a little bit of height here so that I can start to press up so that I'm stretching the front of this. I'm not trying to take my back into an arch, right? I want to keep this glute contracted so that the front of this is where this is coming. So I've got the one hand now on my knee and then the other one on the block. So whatever you have around to use for a little bit of an assist to get that nice upright feeling. And then I'm gonna think about pulling that back knee in just a hair so that I can come up into a 90-90 position. I'm still gonna contract this glute. So I'm thinking contract this glute, slightly tuck the tailbone so that the hip bone pulls up. Because this is the attachment point for all these guys. So I want this to pull up so we get a better stretch through the leg. And then, if that's enough, you just stay there. If it's not, you're gonna think about taking your pelvis straight forward. So we're not going back into that diagonal lunge. We're just gonna shift straight forward. No change in the back, right? Your whole spine comes with you. You feel how just that one little tiny shift, suddenly you're deep in these hip flexors. I don't know very many people who are sitting less right now. I'm sure that there are some. I'm sure emergency workers, people like that, maybe. But not the people I know. Right?
Yeah, it's like we're all stuck in the place where the chairs live.
Yeah, right? And then take it backwards and switch to the other side. So starting with the longer lunge, so your knee is a little bit farther back. The tucked toe makes my knee feel better, but you can do it whichever way feels good to you. And then dropping inside that leg so that this knee is angling out just a little bit, just to get that inner thigh. This side doesn't feel as tight to me, so that's always a good thing to notice. We talk about that a lot in class, about how noticing that one side is feeling more sensation than the other in a certain position doesn't mean that it's from that side. It just means that it's different. And those are good things to notice, because if problems come up, you can think back to those things you've noticed about your body. Stretching it out, long line. Again, using that block for a little height or to take it down to your elbows if you want a little more depth. And then we're just gonna, did I press up first before we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna press up first. So we're gonna press up first, keeping that knee a little bit lengthened, right? And you can take the hand to the knee, to a block, whatever you've got. Pieces of furniture.
Little sisters.
Whatever's handy, small children. My husband took the kids out somewhere, I don't know where they are. My son was being a little cranky, so I thought he might be here. I told him he had to take class with me, and he did not stay. They'll do another person's yoga class, but they won't do mine. All right, so now
Is this like the outside food dilemma? Like it's only good because it's outside food?
right? We're gonna bring that back knee in so that we're making more of a 90-degree angle with both hips and knees. And then tuck that glute on that back leg. And think about tucking the tail just a little bit so that the hip bone pulls up toward the ceiling. And then shifting the hips just a little bit forward. Now, if you feel like I do right now, like my knee does not like this, I'm just gonna pull my mat back and give myself a little bit more cushion for my knee. That's my knee that seems to have borne the brunt of my dance career. So things feel, I just feel stuff more on that side than the other.
It remembers. The North remembers.
Remembers, your body never forgets anything. That's been interesting. I asked on my Instagram the other day, like what old cranky spots are flaring up right now, and I got so many answers. Just the full, like all the different parts of the body. Things that people hadn't thought about for years, suddenly getting really cranky, whether it's because of the stress or the change in the motion, the lack of motion. All right, how are we feeling? We good?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a little side plank now. Get the side part of the core activated. So there's all kinds of variations on side plank, but my favorite one is actually the sort of the most basic one, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. So I like to do side plank when I'm working on core, particularly. When I'm working on balance, then yeah, the pretty one with the leg up and all that is cool. When I'm working on core, and I just want to focus on this, elbow, hip, and knee are all in a straight line, more or less. My knee usually ends up slightly in front of me. And my feet, instead of being long, are tucked behind me. And so it's not, my knees aren't forward like I was going to do a clam. They're back so that I'm a straight line. And we're going to lift 8 times, and then we're going to hold for the top one. So take a nice inhale. Exhale, contract these muscles underneath to come into a nice straight line, right? Knees through the crown of the head, and then inhale, take it down. Watch that elbow position. If you find that you start out here and your shoulder's making this kind of an angle, you want that elbow to be right underneath you. Nice straight line this way. If you like the hand up, the hand on the hip, whatever, you can put your hand anywhere you want. So that was 3, this is 4.
And for balance.
5. And this front hand, jazz hands, fist, relaxed, whatever works for you. I think this is our last one. We're gonna stay at the top, right? Am I counting right? Holding here. That arm can reach up here. That actually feels really nice. Then you have that grounding down through the floor, reaching up toward the sky. Holding, holding. Check into your neck. Can you turn your head? Is your neck holding on for dear life? And then bring it down and take it to the other side. Elbow, hip, knee, all in a nice straight line. And we'll press it up. Elbow staying nice and underneath you so that when you come up, you're right on top. 1, 2, long line through the body. 3, using those muscles underneath. I always like to touch them, right? Feel them contracted. 4, 5, 6, 7, and last one we're going to hold. Add that reach if you want to. You can also do the yoga style reach over if that feels good. Holding, feeling all these muscles. And bring it down.